This lighting kind of looks like monster lighting. I'm experimenting with new lighting. Tell me down below if this looks good or not. I'm changing things around. Hey everybody, as always Jarek here, and I finally have found another hidden gem. Believe it or not, I don't go searching for bad games. I just look for obscure games, and those generally end up being obscure because they're bad. But the real reason I'm doing that is just because I'm really curious about them. I see a game, I've never played it before, why not try it? Probably because it's really bad, that's why not, but I do it anyway because I love you guys. Anyway, there's only two games I've covered that I would consider to be hidden gems. The first one is Necrovision. Great game, go play it. The second one is this game today, Cold Winter. Cold Winter was a PlayStation 2 exclusive, and I genuinely don't know how I've never heard of this game. And judging off the response I saw in my Twitch chat and around online, that's the general response. People just haven't heard of it. And then when they play it, they find it to be pretty fun, and they wonder why they never played it before. Now you may be saying, well, of course you didn't know it exists, you're a PC gamer. But that's not really true, I'm just a gamer, and since I mostly play first-person shooters, I choose the best platform, which is 99% of the time PC. And don't call me a PC elitist for saying that, that's just kind of how it is. I literally have consoles in the background of every single one of my videos. In my intro is the PlayStation boot up sound. But that's also kind of a point. Back then, you had more reason to play consoles than you do now. There were so many good games on the GameCube, on the original Xbox, on the PlayStation 2, and since I had a bunch of brothers and sisters, we all saved up our money to buy consoles and shared them with each other. So back then, I frequently played on every console, and that's why I loved Halo so much. I had an Xbox to be playing Halo on non-stop. So again, I don't know how I never played this game. I had a PlayStation 2, I played that console plenty. Perhaps it was because this game came out late in the PS2's lifespan. It came out in 2005, and at that time we were too busy playing Half-Life 2, Doom 3, Halo 2. There were a lot of really good games at this time. So maybe it just fell under the radar on a console that was becoming outdated. And back then, when a new console came out, it was a much bigger deal than now. I mean, the jump between the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3 was just huge. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's talk about the game because I'm sure that's why you're here and you don't care about little child dumb me. First things first, real quick, you probably already think that I have no thumbs, but no, the controls are just kind of bad in this game. I'll explain that soon. But let's start with the graphics. I need to state immediately that I'm not playing this on PS2 hardware, I am emulating this game with PCSX2. The internal resolution is being played at 1440, so it's going to look much clearer than the original PS2 hardware. It's also going to be running at a much more solid frame rate. Every review I saw said that this game has horrible frame rate issues, and I wasn't really having these problems on an emulator. Other than a more stable frame rate and a bigger internal resolution, there's no more improvements to this game. That said, the PCSX2 wiki is really outdated and doesn't tell you things that you should know. For example, on that wiki it tells me that lighting is totally messed up with the emulator and there's no fix. It also tells me that the cutscenes are really jumpy and there's no fix for this yet either. Both of these things are false, and I played halfway through this game before someone came into my Twitch and told me a bunch of fixes to make it look like it's supposed to look. Huge thanks to my Twitch chat, or I would have just played it looking like this the whole time. It seriously was just two things I had to change in the settings and it made it look like the original PS2 game. Also, shout out to my Twitch in general. I'm trying to become a Twitch partner, and one of the requirements for that is to average 75 concurrent viewers. We had around 100 for this entire stream, but I need to average that, and one stream is not good enough. So if you want to come follow me on Twitch, it would be a huge help. Come hang out. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon, and if you subscribe, you even get to see my videos ahead of time. Oh, shit. That bird just got Why? Right, the graphics. This game actually looks pretty damn good for a PS2 game. Now, the textures could use a little bit of work. This game definitely suffers from a heavy case of brown and gray, and some of the levels are kind of just gray hallways. Other than that, though, I really don't have any complaints. Again, this is a PlayStation 2 game. Of course, it's outdated by today's standards, but the PS2 was really outdated even in 2005. The lighting, the smoke effects, the physics, all of this is pretty far ahead of most other PS2 games, with the exception of Black. I have to point Black out, or I know there's going to be a ton of comments pointing it out, but guys, we know Black looks really good, but that's like comparing every game to Crysis. It's just kind of a better looking game and is sort of the height of PS2 games. But yeah, it's surprisingly solid. The audio design is a little hit or miss in a way that becomes a feature, and I'll talk about that later. For now, we'll move on to the plot. And if you're just looking at footage of this game, you would assume that it's just a standard modern military shooter, America good, do war crimes, save the world style story, but that's not the case. I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't blown away, but I was surprised that it wasn't just a generic modern military thing, especially since the game starts with you shooting a rather racist version of Chinese people, and then the very next level you're shooting racist versions of brown people. Not a good first impression, but that's not where the story went. And at the end, you were shooting British people, which the British people in my chat were happy about. I think no one hates British people more than British people. That's what I'm getting out of that. Anyway, the first half of the game kind of doesn't really go anywhere. It sort of just builds up this relationship between the main character you play as, Andrew Sterling, and Kim. This is done fairly well, but you honestly have no idea what you're doing or what's going on for the first half of the game. That is, until the twist is revealed. This old white guy has a plan. He sees that humanity is destroying the Earth, and in order to fix it, you need to cull out a lot of humanity and cause a cold winter. He creates something called Octopus, which is going to launch nukes in every direction, effectively causing a nuclear winter, and cull the numbers down to 600 million. Your main character's whole goal is to stop this, for obvious reasons. It's told in a much better way than what I just told you, so if you're interested in the story, I would recommend playing the game. Really, it's better than the way I described it. The cutscenes do have that early 2000s CGI look, but I mean, again, it's a PS2 game, what were you expecting? This doesn't really bother me. I wouldn't take it over what we have now, but I do miss it a little bit. And the voice acting is pretty decent. I was never pulled out of the game by poor voice acting.
I want you in, man.
This game's getting long in the tooth, Danny. I passed my shelf life 10 years ago. I mean, you can't want to go on much longer. You've got to give up at some point.
It's aggressively British while being reasonably British at the same time. And now we move on to the important part, the gameplay. The best way I can describe this game is that it feels like a mixture of Black meets Soldier of Fortune. It's a linear first-person shooter with enemies that get in your way, however there's plenty of side doors to open and new guns to find. There's even some ahead-of-its-time features in this game that are very basic, but it's interesting to see them in a PS2 game. For example, there's a crafting system. It's, again, very basic, but the fact that it's here at all was surprising to me. You can craft things like Molotovs, lockpicks, sensor bombs. I didn't really ever feel the need to use the sensor bombs, but lockpicks are obviously helpful, and Molotov cocktails are always fun to use. You find random resources like empty bottles scattered throughout the environment. You never have to go searching for them, you generally will end up with these resources at some point or another. It's also very straightforward. You just press select and press X to craft whatever you want. That's it. The other thing that stands out is a physics system, because this is 2005 and Half-Life 2 came out the year before, so we need one. The physics system is pretty basic. You can flip things over and use it as cover, and if people shoot them, they will move. Same thing with the explosions, it'll cause things to move. But for the most part, you're not really going to be picking things up too much. Although the physics system is great for ragdolls, and I really miss those mid-2000s ragdolls. Real talk, my favorite era in video games is what I call the Half-Life era. Half-Life changed everything. And physics were first starting to be implemented into video games. You'd shoot someone in the shin and they would do a backflip away. It was glorious. We've seen a resurgence of boomer shooters, and now I'm hoping we're going to see a resurgence of Half-Life shooters because I really miss these. We're already starting to see some Fear-like games coming, so hopefully we're going to get more of that. Anyway, the physics system exists, but you're not really going to need it to progress through the game, and it's not as good as Half-Life 2, which is kind of a given. But the fact that it's there at all is amusing, and I felt like pointing it out. As I said, you can flip things over for cover. The enemies can also do this, but I found the NPCs are rather stupid. Oftentimes they'll either just stand in place in the open trying to shoot at you, or they'll immediately ignore you, run by you, and flip over a table that would be not useful to them at all. Thankfully, the real highlight of this game is just how fun it is to shoot these NPCs and use all the guns. The guns have that feeling of power that you got in Black with the gore system from Soldier of Fortune. There is so much gore in this game. You can shoot entire limbs off, you will frequently see heads pop and people screaming even though they have no head anymore. It makes no sense, but it's fun. I really cannot stress how enjoyable the gunplay in this game is. You get such a wide variety of weapons, plenty of pistols, plenty of shotguns, plenty of assault rifles, SMGs, snipers. The most notable weapons for me though are the special weapons. You know that funny bass boost noise people use in videos? That one? Yeah, well here's what the grenade launcher sounds like. I didn't add that sound effect in, that's how it sounds in the game. The audio is rather compressed, it is the PS2, but at this point it's basically a feature. It made it way more enjoyable to have that poor audio for explosions. And the same thing can be said for the flamethrower. I mean, this thing is called the KV-8 Dragon Flamethrower, so I'm already obligated to like it, but, I mean, come on. This game is a full game. It's not short at all. It's going to last you 7 to 8 hours. Yet every time I felt that I may start getting bored, it either changed the environment or it gave me some new guns. You'll go from China to North Africa to snowy environments to concrete gray hallways. Yeah, these are pretty boring, but every time you started getting bored of a weapon, they would give you 2 or 3 more. Like I said, there's quite a few weapons to play with, so I really didn't get bored of this game. Although I do highly question what they did to the G11. No, that's a G11. Give me that. And they even named it a G11. What the? Why is the scope on the side? Why? Why did they do that? A lesser game would have had you shoot the same enemy again and dragged the game out, but it never felt like the game was padding its time. It always felt fun. And this really is a testament to how good the gunplay is in this game. But I'm neglecting one kind of big thing. I mean, not really, you'll eventually get used to it. That's the controls. As you probably have noticed, my aim sucks in this game. It's not just me, I have thumbs. It's just that the aiming isn't very good. The best way I can describe this game's analog stick movement is that they tried to make a D-pad work like an analog stick. If you move your analog stick in a circle, you'll end up making a square motion instead. Trying to aim diagonally will be incredibly slow, but horizontally will be perfectly fast, and you can't adjust your sensitivity. You will feel like you're using a third-party controller and you've never played a video game before in your life. That or you're trying to play shooter on the N64. It's really not very good aiming, but you do get used to it, so I can't necessarily say it's that big of a deal after a while. I do really wish this did get a PC release. That would make this game so much better. But as it stands, this is a fantastic PlayStation 2 exclusive. And I don't know why I didn't hear of it sooner. Also, the developer was Swordfish Studios, who made that 50-cent Blood in the Sand game. Whack. Anyway, the game didn't waste my time, so I'm not going to waste yours. This is a fantastic PlayStation 2 exclusive. If you haven't played it, I would highly recommend. It is certainly what I would consider a hidden gem. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, you can check out my other stuff here, including an entire playlist of my analysis videos. If you want to join me on Twitch, you can see what my Twitch is in the bottom right, twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is down in the bottom left. Thank all of you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.